trans really isn't the issue anymore. It's just who we find have, more in common. Transgendered isn't the common tie that we have any longer. It's because we want to have families. It's because, we want to fight for certain issues, or, someone likes house music and we can go dancing together. So community has, it started off as being kind of like family, but, with your family, you kind of outgrow it and you have to venture off and do your own thing. So that's kind of how I see community right now. The word, I didn't even know the word transgendered. I didn't even know what transitioning was until I met my first trans guy probably in 96 when I was living in Santa Barbara, but for some reason something just didn't click, and I'm not quite sure if it had to do with the fact that I was trying to date his friend who was female. Well, I know where I've come from, which is middle to upper middle class black family, heavily involved with Baptist churches. My mother's a minister, my father's a deacon in his church. So a lot of my background has to do with, it was very religious. I'm not in the same economic status anymore, but I tend to have people around me who are educated. I tend to have people around me who work hard and have a purpose outside of doing their job. There's something extra about them that that just drives them to go on every day. And that's kind of the background that I grew up with. Really a specific turning point for me was hanging out with a whole bunch of gay guys and feeling very comfortable and not being able to answer certain questions that they had, like, why don't gay guys and lesbians get along? And it's like, well, I really kind of wish I had an answer for you because I don't know. And I have lots of gay guys in my life. But I think there was a certain point in that weekend where everything was just stripped away and it became very basic, and I really liked how that felt. And I feel a lot of it was because I detached myself from my female side and really kind of embraced the natural feelings that were coming up because it was so difficult to be female. Getting involved with FTM International, meeting more trans guys. Transgendered wasn't really, I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't a notion that I necessarily pondered. It's like, okay, well, I'm a guy now. And I feel so much better identifying as a guy. And I think there was part of me that would get defensive, and I'd be like, well, I don't want to have to defend why I'm a guy. I just am. And really, other people should just take it as such. And in my travels, I've learned a lot as far as how people use that word transgendered. And sometimes what's been explained to me as transgendered is this umbrella. And there are all these different terms that go under the umbrella. And I think in general it's just hard to explain yourself. No one really gets it. Because there can be one trans guy who's like, okay, well, I'm transgendered, whereas I would probably more say I was transsexual, but I haven't had any, procedures done. And the experience is just, the experience under the transgendered umbrella is just so vast. Right now at my job, I present as male, I'm considered male, but I haven't had top surgery, and I know that's something that they notice. So it's like, go back in my little Rolodex, well, guys have breasts too. I can go through this life saying, well, I used to weigh 500 pounds and I lost all this weight and this is what I couldn't get rid of, or I have gynecomastia, or, if I really had to take it into wide explanations, I could do it, But I prefer to just be like, I'm Zion, and this is what it is. Whether or not you know other guys who have breasts or not, this is what Zion consists of. I think when I first started transitioning, I wanted other people to understand. Like, I wanted my family to understand. And with some resistance of wanting to, like, know where I'm coming from, it was just better to say, this is how it is. You know, I use the men's bathroom, and I wear men's clothes, and I present myself as male. And the struggle I feel inside is almost gone, because now I can make the statement and say, I'm a man. So the struggle, like, that takes away my inner struggle pretty much. Well, I think identifying as lesbian, what set me apart was I didn't know what it was like to be female. Yet I'm playing this role of being female. And, you know, it was kind of weird because I didn't want them to call me Butch, but naturally that's just how I fit in. And I don't know, like, I would just always use this excuse. It's like, I know I'm a woman, but I really just don't understand women. And once I started transitioning, it, you know, everything just became so much more clear. Well, of course I don't understand women. I'm not a woman. So I think that really is what set me apart. But it wasn't other people setting me apart because of that. It was me setting myself apart. I think the community as a whole became angry. But the few people that I've kept in my life have been very accepting. I think to them it makes more sense. And I find that now that I have more ease with who I am, everybody else has more ease with who I am. I wouldn't say that I could go hang out at the Lexington these days. You know, if I choose to go hang out there, I would make sure I had a whole bunch of other women with me, you know, to kind of like validate my presence. Because even explaining the fact that I have a female past, it's kind of like, who cares? You're not a female now, so why do you think that you can be in our space? This is why we have this. This is why we created the space in the first place, and you pretty much rejected it once you crossed over. And I find with some women, there's a lot of hostility in the lesbian community, and those are the people I avoid. Family, because I think in the beginning it was because I wanted them to understand what I was going through, and then realizing that they probably won't understand, or they don't want to understand. I needed to show them that it is what it is. It's not a phase. It's not something I'm just thinking about. This is my life, and this is how I want to go through my life. And I believe that once people saw that I was happier, so that I could stand up straighter, I can, you know, speak the way I want to, I could dress the way I want to, and I was happy. Like, happiness was a really big thing with my family. I think safety is a really big issue with my mom. And, you know, and my dad, at the beginning, he was just like, I don't believe it. But he's turned to like, okay, well, if you're going to do it, then you need to be as real as possible. And has been kind of a guiding presence instead of being opposition. So even though there are a lot of things that people had to kind of change to deal with, I also had to take those situations into consideration and realize that my life does impact other people. And like part of my feeling is like, well, I don't really want to impact anybody. This is what's going on in my life. But if I'm going to have people around in my life, then I need to realize that what I do to myself, what I do in my life does affect them. And it's been about 4 years now, and things are settling out. People are willing to use my name that I've chosen rather than my given name. And I wouldn't say they're like completely turned over, but it's definitely easier now. There is definitely a community when I arrived.